Well, I mean, I think that the music is a reflection of the society that we live in. You know, there's some people that want to, like, focus on bringing sexy back, and then there's the other people that are just like, man, this world's kind of fucked up. Like, let's address these issues and, like, bring them to light. And sure, we're not changing the world, we're a band, but the art is reflecting the world that we live in. You kind of have to ruin your life to be in a punk band.
I played guitar since I was a little kid.
I've always been very attracted to music.
From a young age, I was just interested in it.
Got into music as a youngster, and because I was taken by it.
I started very young, same as Justin. I started playing music at 13 years old.
Stuff that I am involved in and things that I have to do to survive kind of suck sometimes, but it could be worse.
I'm pretty aware that that's how it works, you know. There's very few people that get to be a musician for a living.
I definitely think that someone would be fucking crazy just to start a band just to, like, be successful.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I definitely don't have that.
It's different now at 36 than it was at 21.
It's difficult to make money playing music. It's a difficult thing to do.
That's what I've, you know, ultimately worked towards, but I don't expect anything.
Like, at 21, it was how many people were at the show and how many records did you sell?
To me, like, the first measure of success is like, I love this. If I wasn't in this band, I would totally come see this band and be in love with it.
And that's why I play music in the first place, is selfishly. I like to play music for me. I like to play music that I would want to hear the drums on.
Now, neither of those things are applicable because you can't use sales as a marker for success.
The ultimate question, it's like someone's concept of what life is.
It turns into a more inward measurement as opposed to an outward measurement.
Yeah, I'm constantly learning new things and constantly getting frustrated and constantly trying to, you know, do new things with it.
I mean, I always appreciate it when people come up to me and are very complimentary and everything, but I know what I have to work on. I know my faults as a musician.
There's all this stuff that people think, like, this is what your goals in life should be.
People are so used to being confined, restraints of what they do for a living, confined by where they live or confined by what music they like. Everyone is into definitions and what we should or should not do.
But then there's like a whole other world of just crazy shit out there.
We don't have to be what everyone thinks we are.
I scrub toilets for a living, and I have no problem saying that. You know, that's like, you gotta like make ends meet, and you gotta like buy drum heads.
You don't expect people to give a shit about you. You need to just shut up and do what you do, and maybe someday somebody will recognize it and you can do what you want to do.
Do you ever get discouraged still keeping a day job?
It's like, well, I have to do it. Otherwise, if I can't just say, like, fuck it, because then I'll just go broke and not be able to eat.
I actually had to sell a guitar and a cabinet to pay my rent while I was on tour.
Like John Waters said once, like, basically, like, if you want to do, like, all this shit, this kind of shit you're doing, you're going to have to intern for yourself for, like, 40 years. And then it'll all pay off. So I'm kind of like, all right, well, I've got, like, 20. You kind of have to, like, stick to your guns, wallow through your own shit, and then eventually you'll come out on top.
Some people are like, oh, I keep doing it because I keep getting paid and I keep paying my bills or something like that. But, you know, at the level that I'm at, it's more just something inside of me that just has to keep doing it.
I personally believe that we should sell millions of records and I should have tons and tons of money. But if that doesn't happen, oh well, you know, let's move on doing what I'm doing. Yeah. We gain new fans and lose fans every year, you know. That's how it works.
So you've got to like perpetually pay your own dues
Yeah.
all the way through
Sure.
to yourself?
Sure. I guess our relationship with Nick is kind of strange.
I met him when he was when Locust and the AAS did a bunch of tours together. We loved each other, got along really well. Obviously, being able to watch them every night was unbelievable.
I think we like connected on so many different levels. My opinion of Nick is that like he's a punk. Headwind City was his like opportunity to be a punk. Don't get me wrong, I think in the AAS he pulls that shit off. There's a few times where I'm like, damn dude, like that's mainstream music. Thank someone, because it's definitely pushing the envelope. But I feel like with Headwind City, it was kind of his chance to like go for it.
It was one of my favorite like sort of collaboration weird projects that I've ever done.
Nick proposed the idea of Headwind City.
Me and Cody were running around London and we came up with this idea of doing this band, and we junk dialed JP.
The concept of Headwind City was basically the two blood brothers and Jordan, Cody, and Nick, and they like said, oh, let's get like Gabe and JP and make it metal.
We all found time in our schedules where we could just meet up for a week, wrote and recorded this awesome EP in a week.
With Gabe and I and the Locust, it was like so meticulous and writing and rewriting and fine-tuning every like nanosecond to, like, and like with Headwind City, it was just like, fuck it, let's just jam and make something cool and have a good time. So then when we had this idea of like starting RETOX, Gabe and I said like, let's ask Nick, to play guitar in it. And along with Mike Crane, obviously, like I wanted to have both of them. I thought it'd be pretty rad.
JP and Gabe reached out to me in the beginning about trying to do something together, which I think turned into RETOX, but I live in New York and those guys are in California, so unfortunately it wasn't possible.
That was how like the things connected, I suppose.
There was definitely like a couple things that reminded me of sort of the Headwind City vibe with RETOX. And it was great to see and hear. I definitely feel like that spirit was like a true jump off point for what RETOX are and became.
Man that
constantly am thinking about
I never stop thinking about
music.
I'm constantly thinking about the next project. I'm constantly booking things for myself. That's what keeps it going.
I'm gonna just stay sober and conscious and like focus and observe everything always.
At this point in my life, as you know, in my mid-40s, I'm on a perpetual motion machine. It's, you know, it's going full speed and there's no stopping it.
I read a book by Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Gibson.
How about whenever you're performing?
He said he knew it was time for him to quit pitching when he was standing on the mound in a stadium full of people thinking about what he was going to do when he got home.
That's the one time where I don't think I'm like calculating like everything.
So if I'm standing on a stage somewhere and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do when I get home, that'll probably be a good way to realize that you don't want to do this anymore, you know?
I kind of don't remember it.
You'd be setting your stuff up
on a stage or whatever, and the first like snare hit.
The first song starts, and the next thing you know, the last song is over and you're walking off stage and you don't remember any of it.
Kind of like catch your breath and you're like, what just happened? That was weird.
I don't care what happened before I'm on stage. I don't care what happens after. For the next like 30 minutes, I own this place.
That's the best way to do. The best way to do shows is to not remember the best shows, because then you are just making it happen. It's automatic, and I love that.
Music that's pissed, music that's like exciting, is like being like, okay, for the next 30 minutes, all you people out there, you belong to me, and like I own this place, and I'm gonna show you why.
I deconstruct my life when I'm on stage. I get really pissed off. I let all my anger, all my happiness, all my sorrow, every emotion that I have comes out through my playing. People play their personalities, dude.
I kind of become, you know, something else. I'm not this timid, shy dude anymore. I have a bass in my hand and I beat the shit out of it. Nobody can take that away from me.
Maybe it's like a sensory overload.
The ones that are the worst shows are the ones you remember every moment of it.
Because if you're thinking about what you're doing on stage, like actually which hit you're playing, you're fucking up.
To think means it's no good.
But that's the thing is, but when it's over, I think like, oh yeah, I thought about that.
What I'm trying to do is to keep my brain out of it. I don't know which side of the brain, one of the sides controls your creativity. I don't know which one it is. I'm trying to let that do its work.
You know your songs, you still play your songs the way they're supposed to be played, and you channel what needs to be channeled, and then that with the crowd, you know, the people that are there and everything like that.
It's not about logic. Music is about magic.
Music is magic. It's the only thing that can change people's moods in 5 seconds. Can make them happy or sad or angry.
A guitar or a song just kept me hanging on.
Or can bring about feelings from their childhood.
And all those memories change over time because obviously I still listen to those records.
Or desires of what they want to do instantaneously.
That's it. It's communication.
Yeah.
You know, art is communication. That is it.
100% communication.
So a communication to me as playing drums is like the passion that I feel and what I bring forth, and then that transfers to people on a certain level, I think.
Less than what's being said, less than the notes being played. I think passion is really what people reverberate with.
I don't often know what it's communicating.
My ideas are pure, my language is not.
I think it is technically the most abstract art form.
Where you don't need words, you're not limited by words. It's just sounds, dude. And sounds are so much more authentic than words.
It's sound and you're hearing it. So there's, on a very basic scientific level, that's happening.
At a elementary level, we're communicating through like the live energy and the guitars and, you know, all the action, for lack of a better term. But like, I think once people get and see what we're actually saying, that's kind of the missing piece.
And it doesn't mean that it has to have a message a la Bob Dylan or anyone else. It just means it's communication.
It conveys something to me when I listen to it.
Because music can have so many different types of messages.
You can take from it what you want and essentially leave the rest. No one will get mad.
But I think it also depends on the people that are there and like what it is that they're in tune with and what they're feeling.
Being able to get enough time to play any amount of shows, to release any amount of music, and to have anyone actually care, which has been surprising. That some people do care.
And there's a reason that there's 400 kids here tonight and not somewhere else. You know, they came for this to hear this speech, you know? And somebody else is on the other side of town hearing another speech.
Obviously, not everybody in the audience is gonna get it, but I think, you know, every musician is prepared for that.
And if you mean what you're doing, and you're not a fake, then other people will understand that and will believe what you're doing.
I don't really like to sort of talk about negative stuff unless it's really apparent. But so for me, what drives me is romance.
It can be misconstrued though.
You can't, it's hardcore. Most people can't understand what's being said live.
And they're like, oh, it's dark, I want to go and kill people, or, you know, it's aggressive, I want to go and just you know, beat people up or whatever. But, you know, it's not, for me, that's not where it stems from. It stems from a very positive place.
I mean, everybody takes something different away from it.
Because I've been able to express myself through music in ways that I'll never be able to express through words.
Okay, I really do appreciate shows that are awesome and people dig it, and the energy when it's right, and I think that's awesome. But I also have learned to appreciate the awkwardness and the awkward energy that you'll get from an audience when the people are not there to see you. As long as those people are paying attention, if they like you or they don't like you, it doesn't matter.
If you love it, great. If you hate it, even better.
If they're paying attention, then you're successful.
If you feel indifferent about it, if you don't care, that's where I feel like I've let you down.
And maybe a lot of the people think, oh, that's garbage or whatever. I mean, I'm sure the critics have said it's garbage or whatever, but they still watched it, you know, and that's kind of harder to do than if they liked it, you know. It's obvious if someone likes it, they're gonna stick around and watch you, but if they don't like you and they still watched it. We had this idea of the band, and at the time Gabe was up in Los Angeles. The whole thing was he was gonna jam with Mike, and then that was gonna be, we were gonna see how that goes. And so Mike suggested Thor.
I worked with Mike at a pizza shop in Boyle Heights in LA, and he called me when I was getting off of a shift and told me to come down and try out. Walked in and Gabe Serbian sitting on the drum set, you know.
Was that the first time you met him?
Yeah, and you know, one of the gnarliest hardcore drummers ever, and it was a pretty big shock to just go, oh, okay, so I'm trying out for a real band, finally. We wrote pretty much our whole EP in one practice.
And it was funny because I didn't even rehearse or anything with them. They wrote the EP.
And at the end of the rehearsal, it was like, oh, Justin's gonna sing. I was like, Justin Pearson? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right.
And they said, actually, don't come up here. We're gonna just come down to San Diego and record.
Done in, I think, 2 days.
So the first time I ever actually hung out with Thor was in the studio recording the EP.
Writing Ugly Animals was kind of the same attitude. It was just, I wouldn't say sloppy, but it was pretty rushed, straight to the point.
They wrote Ugly Animals, and it was that's how it was. It was just how it was gonna be.
Let's just write these short bursts of energy, and let's move on to the next song.
But now with you know, YPLL, the situation allowed for me to say we need to fix this, or we need to change this, or adjust this. Not just okay, here's the material for you to sing on, deal with it. It was oh, here's the material, what can we do to make it better?
These days, RETOX has been pretty front and center in my brain as far as creativity, mainly just because we just wrote a new record and recorded it.
You know, Mike got to bring out, you know, the sounds that he's always been known for. I think the fact that we were all supportive of his style helped shape this record, I think.
You know, you just start playing how you feel.
He would say, no, just play something, just play anything. So I would play a simple beat, just tapu tapu tapu, or tapu tapu tapu, something really simple.
And eventually it turns into this art piece.
Whatever was at the same timing as his rip.
And then you can really fine tune it.
And then I would just kind of start adding things and start subtracting things, start changing the beat around, and we would jam on it for a while.
Make it more presentable.
And the jams turned into him saying, whoa, that was really good, and you know, I would either agree with him or disagree with him. And when we would agree, that's what ended up on the record.
We brought in a producer who was actually engineering it as well, Chris Rakestraw, and we kind of let him speak up when he wasn't feeling the structure of a song.
It's a different dynamic, but it's a completely different situation.
Brian definitely had a lot to work up to, and I don't mean that in a mean way.
I was really just a drum nerd, to be honest with you. I started listening to great drummers, and I found out who Gabe Serbian was. I started listening to The Locust and that kind of stuff, and I eventually met up with him in the hallways of my practice studio in LA.
So it's not like, oh, Gabe's gone, Brian's in, this is the difference in the band. There's all these other factors.
And he recommended me for the RETOX gig, which I was just totally blown away by.
But I think he had, you know, the pressure on a little bit, and I think it helped. I think it was bringing out a lot of intensity that might not have been there if he had just been the drummer from the get-go.
Stepping into his position was difficult because some of the beats were, you know, very innovative.
I mean, there's a lot of differences, but I think that a lot of it's sort of irrelevant.
RETOX is where I'm at the moment, and even RETOX will change, like you said, between Ugly Animals and our new album, YPLL.
I honestly think he couldn't have found a better title. Like, I'm so happy with that title. And I know it's like some clinical term, or it's some term that's used in the medical community or whatever, but it sums up most of my life. I missed out on a lot of life because I was so fucked up.
I think that's why a lot of bands do evolve, is you go, oh, I love their first record, but then, you know, they changed it up so much, and it's because they became comfortable with what they were doing. It wasn't, all right, we need to write hardcore songs. It's, hey, let's write a song.
You came together to start RETOX, so it's like just these little atoms come together to create it. And now, are those atoms actually inspiring itself to
Totally.
expand?
It manifests itself.
I think that it's important that like people grow and influence each other and just are inspired by each other.
Oh, your band sounds like this, or you guys remind me of that. It's like, I would rather try to fuck that up and have them not be able to explain it. You know, I think that's great. I don't want to be like another band. And that's really crazy too, because throughout this tour, you know, we got all these interviews and then with publications or with online publications or whatever, and they always say like, so, you know, the new RETOX stuff and this and that, what are your influences? You know, for one, yeah, okay, our influences are across the board. Like, you know how it is in the van. Like, we listen to everything from Johnny Cash to Slayer to whatever, you know, it's like the whole musical spectrum. But then I think like the bigger thing is, why are you influenced to listen to that kind of music?
In terms of being inspired, I mean, everything inspires me, really. I mean, books, movies, walking around, people staring, you know, people watching, all that stuff affects me, yeah. Life, you know.
This inspires me, and I'm gonna filter it through my person, and it's gonna come out this certain way. And that's I think like the most important thing.
Why are we drawn towards like freaky weird shit?
Exactly.
There's some reason why, you know.
Yeah.
If you're doing something that like you believe in and it's like passionate, it's gonna resonate with anybody.
So it always comes back to that. If it is a passionate endeavor, it will connect.
Yes.
Inevitably.
Yes, for sure. Even with the stupidest people, which there's a lot of stupid people out there that listen to music.
You never know what takes off, what doesn't, what people are into and what people aren't.
But at the same time, it's like, well, we didn't set out to go like, let's do this. It's kind of like, we kind of just loosely set out to do something, and then again, all those atoms and those molecules started growing on each other, and it mutated into something that is organic and something that is sincere.
So you would say that process for a band is necessary.
Totally. Because I feel like you limit yourself when you're like, we have to sound like this, or we are going to sound like this. And then, I mean, fuck, whoever does that, fine. I hope that they get to manifest into something else, though.
Right.
But with RETOX, it was like, let's get raw, and like, let's just be like, I don't know what the word is, but like, yeah, just raw and like almost like cavemen or something, you know.
Yeah,
and
not polished.
Sure, but granted, it got a little bit polished after a while. We were like, you know, when we started out, we were like, let's just be like nasty, like crossed out and like just brutal, and crude, you know, sonically crude. And then after a while, we're like, I think the people involved in it, their natural talents kind of shined, and that's how we like got really honed in on like Mike's sort of like surfy guitar playing and stuff. We're like, dude, that's the stuff we need to do. So that took away from like us being Cro-Magnons, you know. It's like, oh, we were gonna be like cavemen, and now we're gonna be like surfing caveman.
From my perspective, you have to do what RETOX is doing, and that's to like put yourself out there, be on stage as much as possible. Tour, tour, tour.
Part of the existence that the Melvins have in order to be able to survive is playing live shows.
Touring is like one of the best things in the world. Just getting to meet new people and play for new people all the time is fucking awesome.
Touring gives you a separate set of skills than practicing.
Try to own it every night. I know that's not a thing that, you know, always happens, but to like just be like, I'm gonna go on tour for a month, come back for a week, I'm going back on tour again, and every night I'm gonna give it my all.
Fortunately for us, we're able to go from city to city and play in certain positions on bills of varying natures and do a lot of headlining shows on our own where we don't lose a lot of money. So I think it's important to do.
And you can't fail if you're doing that because you're giving people what they want, you're giving yourself what you want. So to me, like, if you just do that, and if you're talented and if you shred, nothing can stop you.
It's kind of funny too, because people have a total misconception of music. Anything from like, you know, my family, like my uncle being like, dude, you getting laid on tour? And you know, it's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, in the hotel room that like 6 of us snuck into, you know, or like in our van for like the 17-hour drive we have to go through.
Being in a band is being in a relationship. If you can't ride in a van with your band, then you probably shouldn't be in a band with those people.
You live together, you sleep together, they're your roommates, they're your family.
You're trapped in a spot with people and you're uncomfortable most of the time, but you need to get used to it.
And it's also lonely, you know, depending on where you are.
Wears on you for that reason, because you're always under a microscope, you're always around those people.
You gotta all have to be able to set all your personal bullshit aside to the best of your ability to come together for the common goal.
In short, touring is hard. It's a pain in the ass.
When you're on tour, it feels like work, you know, because every night you're loading in gear, you're loading out gear, you're on stage, you're tired, you know what I mean? You're hanging out, meeting people.
You gotta all want it and believe in it.
And then I sleep almost the whole time. I consider it time travel because I wake up in the next city. So I don't even know where we are tonight. I couldn't tell you the name of the city.
You have to have a certain state of mind when you're on tour because your whole world gets completely turned upside down.
But it's fun, and like it never feels like work to me. When I come back from a tour, I'm like, that was the funnest shit ever. It's not work. It's fun and it's artistic.
I think that buildup of a long drive followed by our short set, we can only do it because that's our escape, that's our release. That's where we get our high.
But I'm able to adapt to that lifestyle, which is what it is. It's just a completely different lifestyle.
But, you know, I mean, your focus can get lost and people tend to get weirded out by things that make absolutely no difference.
This is the most touring I've ever done. On my previous bands, for example, Festival of Dead Deer, we were so fucked up, mainly me, with hard drugs and heroin, which I struggled for a really long time. We were never able to make it a living. It was literally survival at that point, trying not to overdose and die, trying not to commit suicide, trying not to get robbed in the ghetto. You know, it was literally, that band was literally survival.
I'm a type of guy who loves habit and stability, and I like having my routine and knowing what I'm going to do the next day, and tour, it's never like that.
We'll sit in a van and bicker at each other for 26 hours, and then
And then it explodes on stage.
then it explodes, and then we can get back in that van and do it again.
And I mean, I wrote a freaking book I wrote 2 books on tour, you know, like you have a lot of downtime. So you either spend your downtime, you know, you take your pick, there's a variety of things you can do. It's like you have this time, you're sort of limited to what you can and can't do. You're limited, at least for us, financially, geographically. It's like, here, this is like what you can work with. Go figure out something to do with your time.
Playing upright bass and playing this music that's somewhat aggressive, it's like I have to be in shape. I can't be getting hammered all the time, and you know, I have to, like, it takes a lot of stamina to play this music. For me, anyway. It might not be the same for other people, but I have to keep myself in check all the time.
Does it ever wear you down?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's always like that kind of thing. Like, you're like, I don't want to be on tour. Wait, I do want to be on tour. I don't, you know, like when you're on tour, you don't. When you're not on it, you do. And some tours are better than others, depending on all the different like factors that come into it. The Regents portion of the tour came up through Jason Hammaker, who I've known from Frodis for I don't even know how long.
13 years to the weekend of the RETOX tour.
This is RETOX. That's it. RETOX. That's it.
And you know, so he hit me up and he kind of mentioned this new project, and we knew everyone else in the band, people from Men's Recovery Project and Rob Roz and Sleepy Time Trio, and so it just kind of seemed like a thing that should happen.
JP, Doran, sticky fingers. RETOX.
I wish that there were more human beings that were like Jason. It's like never a dull moment, and it's always like, I don't know that it's like calculated, but it's always proactive, I guess.
With Regents, I really wanted to do something that was a little bit more confrontational, artistically confrontational.
Because he always brings it, and whatever it is a little bit of magic, a little bit of music mixed together.
Like, if you look at old Motley Crue videos, like, that is way cooler. I mean, the dude is in a cage up over the audience, you know what I mean? Like, this is way lamer. It's so much crappier.
You have like these absurd aspects, and it's like always kind of like, I don't know, it's not like forced or cheesy. It's just like, oh, that was totally out of left field, and just made that speck of time in life way more interesting than it could have been.
They're smart. They got this system figured out. They have good jobs. They really know how to survive so they can do their art. I haven't really figured out how to do that.
They were coming out to the East Coast to prepare to open up for the Melvins in Canada. So things worked out, and we made it happen.
Well, typically you don't really tour across Canada. You do the coasts, if anything. And I thought, well, this will be cool because we'll actually get to go across the whole country, and that'll be good. So like, it was a good opportunity, I think.
I was familiar with the Locust.
So it's kind of, you know, we all kind of just know each other.
When Locust toured with Phantomas.
Is it difficult for RETOX to align with other bands?
Well,
like, is that
that's a good point, because there's I feel like there's two kinds of shows. So there's the shows where there's like, you're here to see Melvins and there's an opening act, Or there's a show where like, hey, there's a hardcore show, or this is a punk show, and you know, RETOX is playing with Regents. It's a show. It's like a whole night of like bands.
RETOX is certainly different than what we're doing with the Melvin's Light, so that's always a plus.
I think there's this distinction in sound between the two bands, between RETOX and Melvin's Light. So I think it's a good balance.
Variety is a spice of life, you know. That really is how it goes.
Where like with Melvin's, it's like, oh, here's Melvin's and some opener or whatever, you know, and like, not that that's bad, because Melvin's obviously have seriously paid their dues. I mean, they're legends, so there is that strange dynamic, you know.
I mean, if I go see a show, I don't want to see bands that all sound the same, you know. I want to see like variety, reggae band and a hardcore band, or you know, a string quartet and a funk band or something, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. That's the way I listen to music at home, so why wouldn't I want to see it live that way?
There's the whole concept of like what's like comfortable, and so like people are like, we like Melvin's, we're gonna see Melvin's, and all of a sudden there's this opening act who's like a little bit more like I don't know, like definitely more annoying and a little bit more like harsher, I guess, in certain ways.
But just doing something a little bit different where it involves other people, even if it's a passive involvement, for me makes me a little bit more connected to the audience, but then also hopefully vice versa.
What do I prefer? I don't know. I mean, I prefer the like smaller shows where there's like this energy that's like not able to be like harnessed on a huge stage with like a giant production and nice sound system, but at the same time it's like I also can appreciate that bigger show and this sort of like I don't know, the convenience of like sound check and hearing things, but you know, it's like you lose that energy, you lose that like intensity that you would get in a small venue when there's like people in your face, you know, and you're in their face.
Is to force people to connect with us whether they want to or not, because the stage is smaller, you know, like there's more to be done, there's more space.
So it's like when we were playing with Melvin's, it was like I found myself like, what are we gonna do, you know? And I just felt myself like, I'm gonna go confront these people in the audience, and like, because there's this huge stage and everyone's down here and you're up here, and it's like, well, let's just bring it together. Are you parking in the, okay, hold on, you're parking in the Discord parking lot. You told me to. I know, it's just like, can you just like suck it in for a second, Mike?
I know.
Discord House is kind of this, it's kind of like, you know, a politician finally getting to go to the White House. My mom actually had a Minor Threat CD that I ended up stealing from her. I was about 12 years old and was on the brink of probably becoming just another small town kid, just starting to drink and just fucking around and wasting my life away probably. My mom came in and, you know, asked me if I knew what they were even singing about because I've been listening to it so much. And I, you know, responded no because I didn't read the lyrics. I was 12 years old. It was just into how fast and, you know, angry it felt. Upon my straight edge history lesson from my mother, which is kind of funny, my little 12-year-old brain was like, that sounds good to me.
What? I'm in this book. What the fuck?
You know, I'm a super nice dude, but if I didn't have hardcore, I probably wouldn't be. I'd be bottling it all up. Getting out of Idaho and getting to California and actually seeing you know, the West Coast version, the 3NG, and, you know, all of a sudden, you know, being a part of 3NG, you know, it's pretty big for me. I never thought that I'd really be a part of it.
Gotta stage it, dude.
The way 3NG was created was I kind of was getting bummed out on smaller labels that I was working with. There was like these sketchy elements, you know, that were happening. So it's like, I could do that myself, and I could at least do it as shitty as they are, and then at least know what's going on and figure out why it's shitty.
You know, this is where that mindset was birthed. You know, it feels good to be in that, around that energy. This is where all these bands that mean so much to me rehearsed. Justin, you know, kind of created his own ethic in San Diego with 3NG.
The guitar player of Swing Kids, Eric Allen, was also in Unbroken, and he said, dude, start a record label and put out this Unbroken 7-inch. And I was like, I'm totally down, because like, that's my family. That's one of the raddest bands at that time when I was growing up.
And, you know, RETOX will always be a part of 3NG, you know, naturally. And I think it's a torch. I don't know if it was necessarily passed on to Justin, but it's kind of, it feels like we're on the other coast and we're keeping that alive.
A lot of the people from that movement from the 90s have branched out and are kind of like running a lot of like production management companies, doing bands that aren't necessarily hardcore, but they're, you know, influenced by that as children.
You know, I didn't think to myself like, I'm gonna have, you know, about 70 releases in a, you know, 15 years or whatever. I just thought like, I'm just gonna put this record out and then I'm gonna redo the Swing Kids 7-inch, and then it kind of just went from there. To me, it wasn't a hobby. And I feel like, well, to some people it might just be a hobby, which is fine, but like, I don't want to mess around with that. I don't want to put in so much time and money and energy into something for someone's hobby. We were never expecting money from anything, and now in retrospect, we never got money from anything. But the point was to put all that stuff, to work for these things, and to have it come out as best as it can and as effective as it can. Like, monetary shit thrown out the window. We kissed that stuff goodbye. We were just like, whatever. If it's gonna come out, it needs to come out right, not half-assed and getting ripped off. And so that was the reason for 3NG.
I don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't playing music or writing songs or just creating. If I wasn't able to have a guitar in my hands, then I'm sure I would probably have a gun in my hands and or a gun in my mouth.
There's always some insurmountable thing that you have to deal with, but
Really?
no.
Definitely, lots of sacrifices, you know, monetary sacrifices, especially with playing drums.
Music has been one of the most useful tools to keep me from self-destruction.
Jobs and work, relationships and stuff like that, because you have to like leave and, you know.
I mean, there's several times, in my life where the will to live was definitely waning.
Are you fighting it with the aggression of music?
With this particular style of music is extremely helpful. For me, it's more inner stuff that, you know, I battle. It definitely helps when it's super aggressive and loud and brutal or whatever. It's almost a way of expelling.
I need to just do this. I need to go meet people who aren't, you know, bored and apathetic and want to actually play music and, you know, have the same, I don't know, motivation that I do. You know, I have it's just a natural drive that you can't explain with music. You know, you just want to keep playing.
Sometimes people don't really understand that you have to go away for a while and make no money, or you have to like go and play a show at a certain point of the night or something like that, and then come home and, you know, not have anything to show for it other than like what is like in your, you know, what is like in your own like personal heart.
Music for me is such a useful way, such an amazing way to let all that shit go.
Like a musical exorcism.
It's a musical exorcism, absolutely.
It's a form of therapy.
It's something I need to do. It's self-help.
The reason I don't need a therapist anymore is basically due to playing live.
It's easily removed me from the stream of life. But the irony is I do it not necessarily to feel a part of, but to just be able to belong and exist.
Making it takes you out of life, but the actual creation brings you back in.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, it makes it, it definitely makes it like so that you like continue moving forward. Oh, do I really want to buy that new set of drum heads or buy those new sticks or whatever because I know I'm just going to break them or whatever.
You get to a point where you're like, should I not even be trying this?
There's less discouragement when I can detach from any results or expectations. However, it's really hard to do.
Sometimes you get kind of like you get a little bummed out and everything, and it feels, you know, like it's maybe not worth it at times.
That's where the difficulty lies, is going, you know what? Even if I have to have a one-man band, this is what I want to do.
You know, I myself always just snap out of it. It's just like, yeah, of course it rekindles it, you know. It's just like the looking forward to the next show. It's amazing when you're on stage, or it's amazing when you're with your people in your band and you're creating together, and there's nothing that can really, you know, really top that.
Yo, like, life is awesome. There's love and romance everywhere, and like, you just have to like go out and like be like, this is mine, you know, because I love this.
Okay, I'm an atheist, but if there was some sort of God steering my life, that's where I was being steered by him or her, you know?
God is love. Love is blind. Ray Charles is blind, therefore Ray Charles is God.
This sort of like soul, like going like, okay, you're gonna do this. And like, I have no idea why. I have no idea why I wanted to do all the things that I did, or do still. But I just do it.
So as long as you look at Ray Charles as God, everything will be fine. He'd certainly be laughing at us.
I guarantee you.
Yeah. He wouldn't have to see us, he'd be laughing at us.
I mean, that either route is fine, but like for me, I was like, I have to do this. I have to go on tour. I have to play. And that was just that's just how it worked out.
I mean, I definitely run into a lot of brick walls, but I mean, music is kind of the only thing I can do.
And the reason I took it seriously, and by seriously I mean every day, is because I realized I wasn't really that good at anything else.
I mean, it's pretty much the only thing I know how to do.
I just have to.
It's always been something I've loved to do, and the only thing I know how to do.
I don't really know anything else.
It's all I know, and I would say that it's probably all RETOX knows as well.
Nothing's ever been handed to me.
You can't ask for an allowance from a band. You need to sustain yourself, and it is hard.
I mean, I can take photos, but I don't have that like super ultra competitive shark mentality to compete with that.
The drive in me to pursue it was just, I don't know, I think I felt like it's what I should be doing.
I was into it enough to work at it and to study it, which I still do to this day. I still work on it and study it and try to become a better musician.
The whole reason I play music is kind of a testament of like anyone can do it. And it's not, that sounds so trite because every punk or hardcore dude's like, anyone can do it, just grab a guitar. But it's like, there's only so much you can say.
This is like beyond a full-time job.
Well, you know, you figure that most people who work a job are steadily working 52 weeks a year at least 40 hours a week, you know? And that's just to maintain their level of below middle class living.
I'm learning how to do this and maintain.
And continue doing it instead of just being like, oh, I'm just gonna like get a job and get a family. It's like, no, I just continue being inspired.
If musicians worked as hard on music, if they spent 70% of their waking hours working on that, the same way people do who make a living on other ways, they would get a lot more work done.
Yeah.
They'd do a lot less bullshit.
It's the only thing that I can do that makes me happy and that constantly challenges me and constantly can reward me in some small or grand way.
My life outside of RETOX these days is hustling to pay rent and pay bills.
Mike's always talking about it too, like him and I are like a lot alike, where it's just like, let's just fucking dive in head first, and like if shit gets rough, then we'll just hustle.
I just feel like you can't kill something that's honest. And if someone's willing to be hungry and to be homeless to do this, how the fuck can you get rid of them? You can't. They will go down with the ship.
It's like taking a risk for the sake of making life more interesting, I guess, where a lot of people won't take risks and they'll just play it safe. You know, you think about all these people that just like kind of don't really live life, you know, like what do those people do? You know, they that's their outlet. Their outlet is getting fucked up and then like going to work the next day. And like that sucks.
You know, I also don't along the way want to alienate every single person in front of me, and I want to operate it in a way that would make sense as far as like making it to where I'll continue to be able to continue to do what I'm doing.
On our terms and do it in a way that we think is best.
I think everyone should do what they love, you know. I'm all for hard work, but I want that work to go into my own process.
Yeah.
So I don't want to work for someone else's process.
And that's totally risky, but like way more interesting.
Along the lines of the people that, you know, just get shit hammered every night or anything, do you also think that maybe one of the reasons they don't do anything is a fear of failure? Of even trying?
Totally. But that comes down to like social conditioning and stuff. It's like, you know, like in tradition but what it comes down to is like the whole idea of RETOX or Regents or Melvins, fucking everyone that we align ourselves with, or people that we feel are like part of the same stature or community. It's like we do all that stuff because we're reflecting the world that we live in. It's a reflection of the world we live in, and we're not trying to be negative. We're trying to be, you know, proactive and say like, in some way, like, I don't know, like, fuck it.
The band Mr. Bungle that I played in was kind of, you know, in retrospect, I can say it was somewhat of a reactionary band. You know, we were definitely responding to what was out there in the culture at the time.
So it all comes back to like the whole idea of this, or the title of this album, you know, YPLL, Years of Potential Life Lost. It's not like a musical thing. It's way bigger than that.
If there's one thing that I've learned in the music industry is if there's someone that you hate, that's driving you crazy, whether it's a promoter or a club or another band or a manager or someone, all you have to do is wait. Those people eventually they're gone. It's just like, if you don't like what we're doing, eventually we won't do it anymore and you won't have to worry about it. All you have to do is wait. We'll be gone.
What did I really like ruin my life, or did I just actually live life, you know? But I kind of like have to step back and just say like, well, I am what I am and I do what I do, and what I have is, and you know, I have to appreciate what I do have, and that is like the ultimate, you know, humbling thought process, I suppose.
I chose this lifestyle before I even was in a band.
So you knew, you know.
Now I know, but when it's happening, I never know, ever, even still.
Why is that, you think? Well, I guess you can't make a theory on life until you're dead in a way.
Sure, it totally is like, comes down to the meaning of life.